mouth and swallows them, and all that is theirs, and they will descend alive to the pit. Then you shall know that these men have provoked Hashem. Something that cannot be predicted and does not happen with the power of just a human being. The earth will collapse or open its mouth, and they will fall in. Not in one spot, but if their houses are on one street, another house on another street, and another house in a different neighborhood, just these three houses will collapse, fall in the ground together with all their families and livestock. No one else will be hurt, and the earth will close up and cover them. That will be a sign that it is a divine punishment. When he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their household, and all the people who were with Korach and the entire wealth. They and all that was theirs descended alive to the pit. The earth covered them over, and they were lost from among the congregation. Not a sign was left from them. All Israel, all the Jewish people that were around them, fled at their sound. For they said, "Lest the earth swallow us." They were scared, even though it was a precise mission only for them, but still it was scary. Now, our sages say that children of Korach, a few of his sons, survived. How did they survive? As the earth opened its mouth and they started falling, they realized that Moshe is right. Our father is wrong. And they regretted. They said, we shouldn't have followed our father. We should have followed our Rabbi, Moshe. What can we do? It's too late. We wish we had another chance. And because of their split-second thoughts and teshuvah, a part of earth underground extended, and they fell on it, and they stayed alive, while everyone else fell all the way to Gehinnom. And then later they climbed out and survived, and they had children and grandchildren, and they were part of the great Levite tribe and served in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, in verse 35, we learn what happened to those people who brought Ketoret. A flame came forth from Hashem and consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. Now, chapter 17, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, "Say to Elazar, son of Aharon the Kohen, and let him pick up the fire pans from amid the fire." They were using copper pans in which they brought coals and ketoret. And he should throw away the flame, the coals, for they, the pans, have become holy. Because they were used in the service of Hashem, they acquired holiness. And now you cannot just dispose of them, cannot use them for mundane purpose. They have to remain the property of Beit HaMikdash. As for the fire pans of these sinners against their souls, they shall make them hammered out sheets as a covering for the altar. For they offered them before Hashem, so they became holy. So they took the pans and hammered them out to make them flat as plates, and they copper plated the altar all around. Why? They shall be as a sign to the children of Israel. The Jewish people should see the copper covering of the altar, and they should remember, where did this come from? Oh, from those people who rebelled against Moshe and Aaron. Verse 5, as a reminder to the children of Israel, so that no alien who is not of the offspring of Aaron shall draw near to bring up the smoke of incense before Hashem, that he not be like Korach and his assembly, as Hashem spoke about him through Moshe. A warning that anyone who is not a Kohen may not serve in Beit HaMikdash. From here we also derive a mitzvah not to follow behavior of Korach, example of Korach of being rebellious and liking to fight and argue. So this is an allusion to a commandment of staying away from arguments. Don't prolong arguments. If you fight, come to a compromise, forgive and forget, and move on. Don't hold on to arguments, and don't make a big deal out of them. Don't be like Korach. Now, unfortunately, problems continue. Verse 6, the entire assembly of the children of Israel complained the next day against Moshe and Aaron, saying, you have killed the people of Hashem. Now they're accusing Moshe and Aaron. Imagine, the victims are guilty, even though they were defending themselves and they didn't kill anyone. They just invoked Hashem to decide. And the Jewish people, out of fear and concern for their own life, are accusing Moshe of killing Korach, his family, Datan and Aviram and their families, and 250 men who brought the Ketoret. And it was when the assembly gathered against Moshe and Aaron, they turned to the tent of meeting, and behold, the cloud had covered it, and the glory of Hashem appeared. Moshe and Aaron came before the tent of the meeting. Hashem protected Moshe and Aaron because these people who were now complaining and accusing Moshe of murder were ready to kill Moshe and Aaron. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, remove yourself from among this assembly and I shall destroy them in an instant. Again, Hashem is angry at the Jews and wants to destroy all of them. And Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces again, trying to convince Hashem to forgive the Jews yet again. And Moshe realized that a plague began, and he is instructing Aaron how to stop the plague. Moshe said to Aaron, take the fire pan and put on it fire from upon the altar, the coals, and place incense, and take it quickly to the assembly and provide atonement for them. For the fury has gone out from the presence of Hashem. The plague has begun. And Aaron took the coals and the spices as Moshe had spoken and ran to the midst of the congregation. And behold, the plague had begun among the people. He placed the incense and provided atonement for the people. He stood before the dead and the living, and the plague was checked. Those who died in the plague were 14,700 people, aside from those who died because of the affair of Korach. So if you count 14,700 people that died in the plague, plus the 250 men that brought the Ketoret, plus Korach, Datan, and Aviram and their families, extended families, there were over 15,000 people that died because of Korach, because of machloket, arguments. Now, an interesting thing happened here, that Ketoret, which is until now only killed, it killed the two sons of Aaron, it killed 250 men, now is being used to save people, to heal them, to protect them from death. So Moshe specifically asked Aaron to use Ketoret to show the Jewish people that it's not the Ketoret that kills, but rather misuse of Ketoret, and taking the merit, the privilege of serving God into your own hands. without permission. And by the way, from here came the custom of many cultures to burn spices, burn herbs, and to produce smoke in the hopes that it will protect them from evil spirits or from plagues. And it is true that smoke chases away mosquitoes, that smoke chases away bees. However, we have to be very careful when using smoke of spices, because since it was used by idol worshippers and other nations for idol worshipping purposes, we have to be careful that it shouldn't look like we're serving idols. And therefore, it is not recommended to use what the Bukharian Jews used to burn the isrik, ispandut. It's better not to. If someone is doing it, they may have who to rely on. However, we personally should not encourage it, and we should not participate, should not do it ourselves. We see how dangerous ketoret is. If you misuse it, and if you have wrong thoughts, if you think that you are burning it to an idol, or to a demon, or to a spirit, or even to God, that is absolutely forbidden. If you're doing it just for health reasons, just to create a smell, pleasant smell, for maybe killing the mosquitoes and the bugs, okay. But to do it for any spiritual reason is very dangerous and risky, because it may be considered either idol worship or witchcraft, and it carries a punishment with it. And if a person wants to protect himself, the best protection is prayer and Torah study. If you want to have success, if you want to have health, if you want to have livelihood and good children, ask Hashem for help, rely on Hashem, learn Torah, fulfill Torah, and then you will be protected and everything will be just fine with you. Now, we continue. Hashem said to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel and take from them, now we're on page 831, one staff for each father's household. Now Hashem realizes that the Jewish people are still not convinced that Aharon is the chosen one. So he says, let's make a test. Take a stick, a dry stick, a walking stick, a staff from each tribe, from all their leaders according to their father's house, 12 staffs. Write the name of each leader and the tribe on the staff, and the name of Aharon shall you inscribe on the staff of Levi, and lay them in the tent of meeting before the testimony. Put them in the Holy of Holies, and it shall be that the man whom I shall choose, his staff will blossom. Means a stick will become alive and turn into a living tree that will blossom, produce leaves, flowers, and fruit. And that's exactly what happened. And through this I shall cause to subside from upon me the complaints of the children of Israel. That's what Moshe did. And verse 23, on the next day Moshe came to the tent of the testimony, and behold, the staff of Aharon of the house of Levi had blossomed. It brought forth flowers, it sprouted a bud, and almonds ripened. And you had a beautiful tree instead of Aaron's staff that had branches, that had leaves, that had flowers and fruit, all on the same stick. Ripened fruit. Overnight, Moshe brought out all the staffs from before Hashem to the children of Israel, and they saw and they took each man his staff. Hashem said to Moshe, bring back the staff of Aaron before the testimony as a safekeeping, as a sign for rebellious ones. let them save this tree, and it remained fresh tree, even though it was detached from the ground, for centuries. And whenever Jewish people felt like complaining, they would bring out this tree and say, look at this. This tree is still fresh and still blossoming from the times of Moshe and Aharon. Remember it and stop complaining. Now, verse 27. Jewish people are worried because so many of them died by wrongly approaching the Mishkan, the temple, the service of Hashem. And they're worried that perhaps they will make a mistake in the future and die as a result. The children of Israel said to Moshe, behold, we perish, we're lost, we're all lost. Everyone who approaches closer to the tabernacle of Hashem will die. Will we ever stop perishing? Now we're on page 833, and here Hashem appoints Kohanim and Levim to guard the Mishkan, the temple, and make sure that no one who is not supposed to come in comes in. Hashem said to Aaron, you and your sons, the Kohanim, and your father's household, the Levites, also your brethren, the tribe of Levi, verse 4, they shall be joined to you and safeguard the charge of the tent of meeting for the entire service of tent. And an alien, who's not a Kohen, shall not approach you. Now, verse 8, on page 833, we speak about the gifts of Kohanim. Because Kohanim serve in the temple and they don't get land, instead they are our messengers to serve God, we are obligated as a thank you and as a payment to give them certain gifts. And there are 24 gifts, some of which are mentioned in this Torah portion. Hashem spoke to Aaron, and behold, I have given you the safeguard of my terumah, offerings of all the sanctities of the children of Israel. Which means anything the Jewish people separate, whether from their animals or from their money or their land or from their agricultural produce, I have given them to you for distinction, and to your sons as an eternal portion. This shall be yours from the most holy, from the fire. Every offering, which includes shelamim, from the peace offerings, Kohanim get a part. And every meal offering, from mincha, Kohanim get a part. Every sin offering, from chatat, Kohanim get a part. Every guilt offering, from asham, and which they return to me. Which means, if anyone stole from a convert, and the convert died, and you cannot return it to him anymore, and he doesn't have family, you give it to Kohanim. Now we're on page 835, and he continues listing gifts to Kohanim in verse 12. All the best of your oil, terumah from oil, olive oil, and of your wine. A little bit of wine we have to give to Kohanim. And grain. Terumah from grain we have to give to Kohanim. Their first fruits, the bikurim. Verse 13. The first here refers to terumah, that refers to the three previously mentioned items: oil, wine, and grain. Now, in verse 13 is the first fruits, the bikurim, and verse 14, every segregated property in Israel shall be yours. That's called cherem. If a Jew says, I'm forbidden from using this object or this property, it becomes the possession of Beit HaMikdash and is distributed among Kohanim. Verse 15, every first issue of a womb means the firstborn male of animals. You shall surely redeem the firstborn of man. Firstborn male child is redeemed from a Kohen for 5 silver coins. and the firstborn of an impure animal shall you redeem. If a Jewish owned donkey gives birth to its first baby and it happens to be a male, we exchange that baby donkey for a sheep and we give the sheep to Kohen. And verse 16 explains the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, redeeming the firstborn baby boy. Those that are to be redeemed, from 1 month shall you redeem according to the valuation, 5 silver shekels by the sacred shekel. After 30 days, the father has to approach a Kohen and tell him that he wants to redeem his son and give the Kohen 5 silver coins. Now, we'll go to verse 20. Hashem said to Aaron, in their land you shall not have heritage. The Kohanim don't get land for agricultural use, and Leviim likewise. I am your share and your heritage among the children of Israel. Hashem says, I'm giving you more than real estate. I'm giving you myself. Verse 21, to the sons of Levi, behold, I have given every tithe. Now gifts to Leviim. Maaser, 1/10 of our agricultural produce, grain, in exchange for the service that they perform in the service of the tent of meeting. Now we turn to page 837. And among the children of Israel they shall not inherit a heritage. The Levites, just like Kohanim, do not get land in Israel. They only get small cities where they can live, but no land. Now, in verse 25, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, to the Levites shall you speak, and you shall say to them, when you accept from the children of Israel the 10%, the maaser that they give you from their grain, you shall raise up from it a gift to Hashem, a tithe from a tithe. Tithe is an English word, means 10%. Maaser. So a Levi who gets 10% from a Jew has to take 10% of that and give it to Kohen. So the Jew gives 2% as tirumah to Kohen, then he gives 10% of the remainder to Levi, and Levi accepts it and separates 1/10 of it and gives it to Kohen as well. That's called Maaser Mina Maaser, or Tirumat Maaser. Now verse 30. You shall say to them, when you have raised up its best from it, which means when a Levi separates a portion for Kohen from what he received from a Jew, it shall be considered for the Levites like the produce of the threshing floor and the produce of the vat, which means it becomes fully yours, the Levites. You may eat it everywhere. It does not have holiness. You don't have to bring it to Yerushalayim. You and your household, for it is a wage for you in exchange for your service in the tent of meeting. You shall not bear a sin because of it when you raise up its best from it, which means if you eat it before you separate the 10% for Kohen, it is forbidden. And the sanctities of the children of Israel you shall not desecrate, so that you shall not die. The Levites and the Kohanim are again warned to protect the Jewish people from wrongful entry into the temple, and make sure that whoever comes into the temple is pure, and make sure that only Kohanim and Leviim perform work in the temple. This concludes Parashat Korach. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom Umevorach.